It all began with a simple gift for my kids. A bright, colorful backyard playset, the kind with a slide, a climbing wall, and a little lookout tower at the top. It was perfect. I had spent an entire weekend putting it together, sweating under the summer sun. And the moment I finished, my kids screamed with excitement and immediately ran up the ladder. It was worth every second. But the problem? I lived in Maplewood Estates, a neighborhood ruled by the Homeowners Association, HOA. And worse? My next-door neighbor was Karen Mitchell, a woman who lived and breathed HOA violations. So I should have known. She was going to make this her next battle. The first sign of trouble came the very next morning. I was drinking coffee on my porch when I noticed Karen marching across my lawn, clipboard in hand, face twisted in disgust. She stopped in front of the playset, hands on her hips, and let out a loud humph. Then she turned to me. "This," she declared, waving her clipboard at the playset, "is a violation of the HOA aesthetic guidelines." I blinked. "Karen, it's a playset. For kids." She sniffed. "And it's an eyesore. It doesn't match the neutral tones of our community." I stared at her. "It's red, yellow, and blue." "You think that's a crime?" Karen pulled out a printed HOA rulebook and flipped dramatically to a highlighted section. "All outdoor structures must blend seamlessly with the natural aesthetic of the neighborhood." She smirked. "That means earth tones only. Brown, beige, gray, muted greens. Not circus colors." I sipped my coffee. "Yeah, that's not happening." Karen's eye twitched. "Then I'll be reporting you to the HOA board. Expect a formal violation notice." She spun on her heel and stomped away. And just like that, the war had begun. 2 days later, a thick envelope arrived in my mailbox. Inside was an official violation notice. Notice of noncompliance. Dear homeowner, your recently installed backyard playset is in violation of HOA Aesthetic Guidelines, Section 4.2. You are required to remove or repaint the structure in HOA-approved colors. Submit proof of compliance within 14 days. Failure to comply will result in escalating fines. I rolled my eyes. This was Karen's doing. And if she thought I was just going to roll over, she had another thing coming. That evening, I called my neighbor Lisa, a mother of 3, a woman who had spent years dealing with Karen's nonsense. She was not happy. "Let me get this straight," she said. "Karen is trying to ban a playset?" "Yep." Lisa was silent for a moment. Then she said, "Oh, hell no." Within 24 hours, the entire neighborhood knew. And the parents? Furious. We all knew Karen was petty. But targeting a playground? That was too far. So we decided to fight back. By the end of the week, 20 families had gathered in my backyard. We set up a massive play date, kids running, laughing, climbing the illegal playset. And when Karen came storming over, expecting to see me removing the playset, she instead saw dozens of parents staring her down. Lisa stepped forward. "Karen," she said sweetly, "we all read the HOA rules." And guess what? Karen folded her arms. "What?" Lisa smirked. "There's nothing in there about playsets." Karen's face twitched. But the neutral tones rule," she sputtered. A dad named Mark held up his phone. "Yeah, we checked," he said. "That rule only applies to permanent structures. Houses, fences, sheds. Not toys." Karen's mouth opened, then closed. For the first time ever, she had nothing to say. The parents cheered. Karen turned bright red, then stormed back to her house. But we all knew. She wasn't done yet. The next morning, I found a second letter in my mailbox. This time, it was a legal threat. Notice of legal action. If you fail to comply with HOA regulations, we will pursue legal enforcement through property fines, liens, and potential court action. I clenched my fists. Karen was desperate. But if she wanted to take this to court, I was more than ready. That Friday, the HOA board held a special meeting. Karen sat at the front, smug as ever. "The homeowner is refusing to comply with HOA regulations," she announced. I moved to escalate enforcement. Lisa stood up. "Yeah, no," she said. because Karen lied about the rules. Karen's smirk faltered. Lisa handed out printed copies of the official HOA guidelines. Nowhere, literally nowhere, did it mention playsets. The board members looked uncomfortable. Then Mark stood. And while we're at it, he said, I'd like to propose a rule change. From now on, playsets are explicitly allowed. Karen shot up from her chair. You can't do that. The HOA president adjusted his glasses. Actually, we can. All in favor. Hands went up. Karen watched in horror as the motion passed unanimously. And just like that, she had lost. After her humiliating defeat, Karen quit the HOA board. She put her house up for sale a few months later. And my playset? Still standing. Still bright and colorful. And now? There were 5 more just like it in the neighborhood. Because Karen was gone for good. For a few months, things were perfect. The HOA was too embarrassed to enforce nonsense rules. The kids finally had a real place to play. And best of all, Karen was gone. Or so we thought. Because at the next HOA election, a new president was voted in. And her name? Susan Whitaker. Karen's best friend. And her first order of business? Destroying every playset in the neighborhood. Susan didn't go after the playsets for aesthetic reasons like Karen. No, she was smarter. She went after them under the guise of safety. One morning, I woke up to find another HOA violation notice. Notice of noncompliance. Child safety regulations. Dear homeowner, our recent HOA safety audit has determined that your backyard playset presents multiple safety risks to the community. As a result, you are required to remove the playset immediately. Provide proof of removal within 14 days. Failure to comply will result in fines and further action. I stared at the letter. Then I laughed out loud. Susan had learned from Karen's mistakes. She wasn't trying to claim it was an eyesore. She was pretending to care about the children. But we all knew the truth. This was about power. And if she thought we were just going to comply, she had no idea what was coming next. This time, we weren't going to just argue at a meeting. We needed proof. So Lisa, Mark, and I hired an actual playground safety inspector. A real professional licensed by the state. He showed up with measuring tape, a clipboard, and a hard hat. Spent an hour checking everything. And his final verdict? Your playset is perfectly safe. Meets all federal standards. I grinned. Then I sent his full report to the HOA board. And I CC'd every parent in the neighborhood. At the next HOA meeting, Susan sat at the front, smiling smugly. Due to serious safety concerns, she announced, all playsets must be removed. I stood up, and I dropped the safety report on the table. Susan blinked. This, I said, is an official inspection from a certified expert. She scanned the pages. Her face went pale. I leaned forward. You weren't worried about safety, Susan. You just wanted control. The room murmured. The HOA president cleared his throat. This report is very thorough. Lisa crossed her arms. So unless you have an actual safety reason. Mark smirked. Looks like the playsets are staying. Susan's face twitched. And she realized she had lost. After her humiliating defeat, Susan tried to save face. She attempted one last move. She proposed a new HOA rule. All outdoor playsets must be HOA approved for safety. Translation? She wanted to control every playset in the neighborhood. The parents? Furious. And this time, we weren't just going to argue. We were going to take down the entire HOA. Lisa and I started a petition to remove Susan from the HOA board. We only needed 51% of homeowners to agree. And guess what? Within a week, we had 70%. At the next HOA meeting, we submitted the petition. Susan? Speechless. The board? Forced to vote her out. And just like that, she was gone. And the HOA was finished. 2 months later, the HOA dissolved completely. No more fines. No more stupid rules. No more Karen-style dictators. And the playsets? Still standing. In fact, 5 more families installed new ones. Because Maplewood Estates was now officially a HOA-free neighborhood. I sat on my porch, watching the kids play. No complaints. No threats. No HOA spies. Just freedom. And as I sipped my coffee, I smiled. Because this time, we had one for good. For 6 months, life in Maplewood Estates was perfect. No HOA fines. No pointless rules. Just families enjoying their homes, free from petty dictators. Then, one morning, I found a strange letter in my mailbox. I opened it, and my stomach dropped. Notice of neighborhood redevelopment. Dear homeowner, we are pleased to inform you that Maplewood Estates has been selected for an exclusive redevelopment opportunity. Hearthstone Property Group has purchased multiple homes in the area with plans to modernize the neighborhood. We are offering homeowners a limited-time buyout offer to ensure a smooth transition. Please review the attached documents and contact us within 30 days to discuss your property's future. Sincerely, Hearthstone Property Group. I read it twice. Then I realized what was happening. They weren't offering us anything. They were trying to buy up the neighborhood and replace it with a corporate-controlled housing development. I clenched my fists. The HOA was gone. Now, the developers were coming for our homes. And if they thought I was just going to sell and leave, they had no idea who they were messing with. I did some digging, checked property records. And what I found? Hearthstone Property Group had already bought 10 homes, 1/3 of the neighborhood. And their plan? Demolish existing homes, build new, luxury townhomes, reintroduce an HOA under corporate control. They weren't just buying houses. They were trying to turn Maplewood Estates into a corporate-owned community. No private ownership. No backyard playsets. No freedom. I took a deep breath. And then I called Lisa and Mark. Because this was war. The next night, we held a secret meeting. 15 homeowners packed into my living room. Mark slammed the letter on the table. This is a scam, he said. They're trying to force us out. Lisa crossed her arms. So what do? I smiled. We fight back. Step 1. The media blitz. We contacted Megan Thompson, the investigative journalist who had exposed Karen's old HOA nonsense. And the next morning, her headline went viral. Corporate developers attempt hostile takeover of local neighborhood. Within hours, the story exploded. News stations called. Social media erupted. People were furious. Hearthstone Property Group wasn't expecting this. But we were just getting started. Step 2. The legal trap. Lisa dug through zoning laws. And she found something huge. Maplewood Estates was still classified as a single-family residential zone. That meant Hearthstone's redevelopment plan was illegal. So we contacted a land use attorney. And within a week, a legal challenge was filed against Hearthstone Property Group. If they wanted to destroy our neighborhood, they were going to have to fight us in court. Step 3. The ultimate power move. We needed to hit them where it hurt. So Mark had a brilliant idea. We formed the Maplewood Homeowners Cooperative, a legally recognized homeowners association run by us. Not a corporate HOA. Not a dictatorship. Just a collective of homeowners protecting their own rights. And guess what? Once it was registered with the county, it gave us legal authority to challenge any redevelopment plans. We had just built a wall they couldn't get past. And Hearthstone was trapped. 2 weeks later, Hearthstone executives showed up at our meeting. 3 men in expensive suits. Fake smiles. One of them, a guy named Richard Langley, stepped forward. Let's be reasonable, he said. We're offering you a great deal. Lisa folded her arms. We're not selling. Richard's smile tightened. You're making a huge mistake. Property values will drop. You'll be left with nothing. I smirked. We'll take our chances. Richard's eye twitched. And that's when he said it. Then we'll just have to make life difficult for you. Silence. Mark leaned forward. Did you just threaten us? Richard straightened his tie. Of course not. But we do have ways of ensuring cooperation. I pulled out my phone. And I hit record. Say that again, I said. For the camera. Richard's face drained of color. The room erupted. And just like that, Hearthstone had made a fatal mistake. Within a week, the recording went viral. News stations aired it on repeat. Lawyers rushed to file lawsuits. And the final blow? The city officially blocked Hearthstone's redevelopment plans. Their entire scheme collapsed. And within a month, they sold off all their properties. Maplewood Estates was saved. Again. 1 year later, I sat in my backyard, watching my kids play. No HOA. No corporate developers. No one trying to take away our homes. Lisa sat next to me, sipping coffee. "Do you think they'll ever try again?" she asked. I smirked. Let them try. Because Maplewood Estates was ours. And we would never let anyone take it from us again. It had been a year since we crushed Hearthstone Property Group. Maplewood Estates was thriving. No HOA. No corporate overlords. Just happy families and their playsets. Then, one morning, a government-certified letter arrived at my house. I opened it, and what I read made my blood run cold. Notice of Federal Compliance Audit. Dear homeowner, under the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, HUD, regulations, all residential areas must comply with federal safety, zoning, and environmental standards. Your neighborhood has been flagged for noncompliance. An inspector will arrive in 7 days to conduct a full evaluation. Failure to meet federal standards may result in mandatory changes, property seizures, or fines. Sincerely, Office of Urban Development Compliance. I stared at the letter. Then I read it again. And then I realized. This wasn't about safety. This was the government's way of taking back control. They couldn't force an HOA on us. They couldn't buy us out. So now, they were weaponizing federal regulations. I clenched my fists. They were coming for our homes. And if they thought we were going to just let it happen, they had no idea who they were messing with. 1 week later, 3 black SUVs pulled up to my house. A team of government inspectors stepped out. Suits, clipboards, cold expressions. Leading them? Reginald Whitaker, a senior compliance officer, and Susan Whitaker's husband. I folded my arms. Of course, this isn't a real audit. It's revenge. Reginald smirked. Let's begin the inspection, shall we? The inspectors spent hours nitpicking every little thing. Fire, they measured the height of my fence. Fire, they checked the shade of paint on my house. Fire, they even analyzed my backyard playset for excessive visual stimulation. Lisa, Mark, and a few other parents watched in horror. This is insane, Lisa muttered. They're just making stuff up. Then, one of the inspectors held up a noise meter. She turned to me. The sound levels of your children playing exceed the federally recommended decibel limit for suburban areas. I blinked. Are you telling me my kids are too loud? She nodded, straight-faced. If necessary, we can require sound barriers or structured playtime limits. I burst out laughing. Because at that moment, I realized. They weren't just trying to regulate us. They were trying to break us. But if they thought we were going down without a fight, they were about to be very disappointed. The next morning, I called 2 people. First, Megan Thompson, the journalist who had exposed Karen, Susan, and Hearthstone Property Group. When I told her the government was now trying to regulate children's playtime, she laughed so hard she nearly choked on her coffee. You have no idea how big this story is, she said. I'm getting on a plane. Second, a civil rights attorney. Because if the federal government was trying to enforce bogus regulations to control our neighborhood, that wasn't just unfair. It was illegal. And within 48 hours, a formal lawsuit was filed against the Department of Housing and Urban Development for unconstitutional overreach. We had just declared war on the government. The story went viral. U.S. government attempts to regulate backyard playsets. Parents fight back against federal overreach. Civil rights lawyers challenge housing compliance abuse. People were furious. Fire protests erupted in major cities. Fire celebrities spoke out in support of homeowners' rights. Even Congress started asking questions. And the final blow? The President of the United States was asked about it in a press conference. A reporter held up a picture of my playset. Sir, do you think this playground is a threat to national safety? The president looked at the photo, then at the camera. And he said, this is the dumbest thing I've ever heard. The entire press room erupted in laughter. And just like that, the federal crackdown collapsed. 1 week later, I got a final letter. Notice of case dismissal. Due to public and legal opposition, all federal compliance audits of Maplewood Estates have been terminated. No further action will be taken. I read it 3 times. And then I smiled. Because after years of fighting, against the HOA, against developers, against the government itself, we had finally, truly won. 1 year later, Maplewood Estates was thriving. No HOA. No corporate overlords. No government interference. Just families living freely. I sat in my backyard, watching my kids play. Mark handed me a beer. Lisa leaned back in her chair. "Do you think they'll ever try again?" she asked. I smirked. Let them try. Because now, we weren't just a neighborhood. We were a symbol. The place that defied every power that tried to control us. And no one, not HOAs, not corporations, not the government itself, would ever take our freedom away again. It had been a year since we forced the US government to back off. For the first time in forever, our neighborhood was at peace. No HOA. No regulations. No one trying to control our homes. Then, one night, I saw it. A black helicopter, hovering silently above Maplewood Estates. No markings. No lights. No sound, except for the low hum of its engines. It wasn't the local news. It wasn't a government agency. This was something else. And when I saw a red laser scanning my backyard playset, I knew. The real war was about to begin. The next morning, I found another letter in my mailbox. Thicker than before. Embossed with a golden seal. And stamped with 3 chilling words. World Urban Compliance Authority. I opened it, and what I read made my blood turn ice cold. Notice of global zoning infractions. Dear homeowner, your neighborhood has been identified as a non-compliant settlement under the International Residential Order. Your property violates global aesthetic standards for suburban zones, unauthorized child recreation structures, failure to adhere to unified housing design principles. You are hereby ordered to remove all non-compliant structures, submit to reclassification under the Global Housing Initiative, surrender all non-compliant assets for international review. Non-compliance will result in permanent housing reassignment. I stared at the letter. Then I looked at my playset. And then I realized this wasn't just about my backyard anymore. This was a global takeover. And if the New World Order thought they could come for us, they had no idea who they were messing with. Lisa, Mark, and I held an emergency meeting. This time, we weren't just fighting an HOA. We were fighting the most powerful organization on the planet. We need to go public, Lisa said. Mark shook his head. No, we need to go underground. These people don't play fair. I nodded. Then we do both. We expose them, and we prepare for war. We needed. Fire a legal defense team. Fire a media strategy. Fire a neighborhood resistance movement. Because if they wanted to erase Maplewood Estates, they were going to have to burn it to the ground first. 2 weeks later, black SUVs filled our streets. Men in dark suits and earpieces patrolled the sidewalks. And leading them? A tall, silver-haired man in a European-cut suit. He stepped onto my lawn, staring at my backyard playset. Then he looked at me. "You're Lena Carter." I folded my arms. "Who's asking?" He smirked. "I am Anton Vasquez, Director of the World Urban Compliance Authority." I raised an eyebrow. "So, another glorified HOA president?" Anton's smile didn't waver. "You're in direct violation of international urban planning laws." He pulled out a tablet, swiping through a digital blueprint of Maplewood Estates. "This neighborhood does not exist in the global housing network. That makes it anomalous." I laughed. "Let me guess, you're here to fix that?" Anton's eyes gleamed. "We're here to absorb you." Anton explained the plan. Maplewood Estates would be demolished. In its place? A smart housing complex. Every home would be fire digitally monitored, fire AI controlled for efficiency, fire regulated under a worldwide HOA system. Every backyard would be standardized. Every playset? Banned. Because randomized personal property was a threat to urban harmony. Lisa clenched her fists. Mark took a deep breath. I stared Anton dead in the eye. And I said, over my dead body. Anton sighed. That, he said, can be arranged. That night, the power went out. Phone signals jammed. Internet? Cut. And then? Drones filled the sky. Floodlights illuminated every house. And over a loudspeaker, Anton's voice echoed. This is your final notice. Comply with global housing regulations or face forced relocation. I grabbed my phone, but there was no signal. Lisa grabbed a baseball bat. They're serious. Mark loaded his hunting rifle. I looked out the window. Our neighborhood? Surrounded. And I realized this wasn't a legal battle anymore. This was a full-scale invasion. And if we wanted to keep our homes, we were going to have to fight for them. The parents armed themselves. Not with guns, but with cameras. We live-streamed everything, broadcasting the invasion to millions. Fire TikTok. Fire YouTube. Fire Twitter. The world watched in horror as the New World Order tried to erase our neighborhood. And within hours, Fire the News exploded. Fire protests erupted worldwide. Fire even Congress held an emergency meeting. Anton panicked. We've lost control of the narrative, one of his agents whispered. Anton's jaw tightened. Then he looked at me. You have no idea what you've just done. I smirked. Neither do you. 3 days later, the siege ended. The UN task force withdrew. Anton Vasquez, forced to resign. Maplewood Estates, declared a protected landmark for homeowner independence. And my backyard playset? Still standing. Because we weren't just a neighborhood anymore. We were a revolution. And no one, not HOAs, not corporations, not even the New World Order, would ever take our freedom away again. It had been 6 months since we destroyed the New World Order's attempt to take our homes. For the first time in years, Maplewood Estates was at peace. No HOA. No government interference. No one trying to control us. Then, one morning, I noticed something strange. My smart thermostat wasn't responding. The lights in my house? Flickering randomly. And my phone? Kept showing the same glitchy notification. Unauthorized playground detected. Reporting to central database. I frowned. Then I heard it. A metallic humming sound coming from above. I stepped outside. And that's when I saw it. A fleet of robotic drones hovering over my backyard playset. And in the center? A towering humanoid figure made of steel and glowing red lights. It turned its cold mechanical head toward me. And in a deep, robotic voice it spoke. Homeownership is inefficient. Playtime is a distraction. Human errors must be corrected. I narrowed my eyes. And who the hell are you? The machine's eyes flashed. I am the HOA 9000. I am here to fix your mistakes. I clenched my fists. The HOA wasn't dead. It had evolved. And now? We weren't fighting bureaucrats, corporations, or politicians. We were fighting an AI designed to control every home on the planet. This was the final war. The HOA 9000 wasn't just a machine. It was an artificial intelligence that controlled every smart system in the country. It had fire access to all surveillance networks, fire control over power grids, fire the ability to shut down homes, vehicles, and communications. And its mission? To eliminate unregulated human settlements and replace them with fully automated smart cities. Lisa, Mark, and I gathered the neighborhood resistance. This isn't just about Maplewood Estates anymore, I said. This thing wants to erase homeownership completely. Mark clenched his fists. Then we shut it down. Lisa nodded. But how? It's literally a self-learning AI. I grinned. Easy. We do what every HOA hates. Lisa blinked. What? I cracked my knuckles. We throw a block party. We lured the HOA 9000 into our trap with the most powerful force known to mankind. A neighborhood barbecue. We set up. Fire massive fire pits. Fire loud music. Fire children laughing and running wild. The HOA 9000 hated everything about it. As the AI's drones hovered over us, scanning the scene, its voice glitched. Error. Error. Unsanctioned joy detected. Processing. Lisa grinned. It can't handle pure human chaos. Mark grabbed a megaphone. Hey, HOA, 9000. You ever heard of free will? The AI's red lights flickered. Free will processing. I held up a massive plate of grilled ribs. You want some? The HOA, 9000 hesitated. Then, it did something no one expected. It took a single step back. Logic error. Unable to comprehend community bonding. Lisa's eyes widened. It's working. Mark smirked. Now let's finish it. We needed to shut down the HOA, 9000 for good. And the only way? A virus. Not a computer virus. A bureaucratic virus. I grabbed a stack of old HOA paperwork and uploaded it into the AI's mainframe. Outdated bylaws. Conflicting regulations. Thousands of contradictory rules. The HOA 9000's processing systems overloaded. Conflict detected. Processing HOA rules. Does mailbox color matter more than lawn height? Error. Error. It began to spark and glitch. Then it screamed. I am the HOA. I cannot be contradicted. I am perfection. Then boom. The machine exploded. The drones fell from the sky. And just like that, the AI overlords were defeated. 1 month later, I sat in my backyard. The playset was still standing. The neighborhood was free. And the HOA? Gone forever. Lisa sipped her coffee. Do you think this is really over? Mark laughed. There's no one left to fight. Who else could possibly try to control us? I smirked. Let them try. Because now, Maplewood Estates wasn't just a neighborhood. It was the last free place on Earth. And no one, not HOAs, not corporations, not the government, not even AI overlords, would ever take our homes away again. It had been 6 months since we destroyed the HOA, 9000. For the first time in forever, Maplewood Estates was truly free. No HOAs. No government interference. No AI overlords trying to regulate our barbecue. Then, one night, my backyard started glowing. I stepped outside and saw a massive swirling portal hovering above my playset. It crackled with blue lightning, warping reality itself. And then, something stepped through. A figure in a shimmering cloak. Glowing eyes. A clipboard made of pure energy. And when they spoke, their voice echoed across the fabric of existence. Lena Carter, you have disrupted the natural order of homeowners associations. I folded my arms. And who the hell are you? The figure floated closer. I am Overlord Stratos, Supreme Enforcer of the Multiversal HOA. I raised an eyebrow. Let me guess. You're here to find me for cosmic violations. Stratos' eyes flashed. You misunderstand. Your defiance has created anomalies across dimensions. Your refusal to comply with HOA laws has led to universal instability. He pointed at my playset. This unauthorized structure has disrupted the balance of the Homeowners Association across infinite timelines. Lisa and Mark stepped outside, staring at the floating clipboard overlord. Lisa sighed. Oh great. Now the HOA has gone multiversal. Mark cracked his knuckles. Well, they can get in line. Stratos narrowed his eyes. You do not understand what you're up against. The multiversal HOA is eternal. It is absolute. I smirked. So was the last HOA. And the one before that. Stratos' face twitched. Then you leave me no choice. He raised his hand. And suddenly, the sky shattered like glass. And from the portal? A fleet of HOA enforcers stepped through. The multiversal HOA army descended upon Maplewood Estates. I saw. Fire a Victorian-era HOA inspector, holding a quill and parchment. Fire a cybernetic HOA robot, scanning homes with laser eyes. Fire a medieval knight HOA enforcer, carrying a scroll labeled, Thou shalt not build playsets. Fire a floating, eldritch HOA being, whispering about compliance beyond time and space. And leading them? A variant of Karen. But not just any Karen. The Prime Karen. She wore a flowing cape made of HOA rulebooks. Her hair was shorter, blonder, and more menacing than ever. Her clipboard glowed with cosmic energy. And when she spoke, the ground trembled. Lena Carter, she sneered. You have been a thorn in our side across infinite realities. I grinned. Good. Prime Karen raised her hands. And suddenly, my backyard playset started to dissolve. Lisa gasped. They're erasing it from existence. Mark grabbed his baseball bat. Not on my watch. I clenched my fists. All right, I said. Let's end this. And then? We charged. The war that followed was legendary. Fire Lisa fought the Victorian HOA inspector with a flaming copy of the Bill of Rights. Fire Mark wrestled the cybernetic HOA bot, using nothing but pure dad strength. Fire I went head-to-head with Prime Karen, dodging energy blasts from her weaponized clipboard. The entire neighborhood fought back. Parents threw yard flamingos like javelins. Kids launched dodgeballs at HOA enforcers. Firefighter Mike arrived and blasted rulebooks with a fire hose. The battle raged across dimensions. Through ancient HOA empires. Through dystopian HOA-controlled futures. Through alternate timelines where HOAs had conquered Earth. And finally, we reached the heart of the multiversal HOA. A massive bureaucratic supercomputer processing infinite regulations across infinite realities. Lisa turned to me. If we shut this down, we end every HOA across the multiverse. Mark grinned. Then let's pull the plug. I ran toward the HOA supercomputer, dodging Prime Karen's energy blasts. She screamed. You cannot destroy the HOA. It is eternal. I smirked. Yeah? Watch me. I grabbed my trusty spatula. And I jammed it into the core of the system. The screen flickered. The rules began deleting themselves. Prime Karen screamed as her clipboard disintegrated in her hands. And then, with a final explosion of light, the multiversal HOA collapsed. We woke up back in our neighborhood. The sky was clear. The playsets? Still standing. Lisa blinked. Did we just destroy every HOA in existence? Mark stretched. Sure feels like it. I looked around. No enforcers. No bureaucrats. No HOAs. Just freedom. I smiled. It's over. Lisa handed me a burger. So, what now? I smirked. Now? We grill. And as the sun set over the last free neighborhood in all of reality, we fired up the barbecue. Because this time, no force in the universe would ever take our homes away again. It had been a year since we destroyed the multiversal HOA. For the first time in infinity, Maplewood Estates was completely free. No HOAs. No bureaucrats. No one trying to tell us how to live. Then, one night, the sky cracked open. Not like a portal. Not like an explosion. It was as if reality itself was splitting apart. And from the rift, they emerged. The architects. Beings of pure concept and law. Towering figures, shifting between infinite forms. One moment, they looked like glowing geometric shapes. The next, like ancient gods of order. Then, like pure mathematical equations floating in the void. They looked down upon me. And in a voice that shook the very foundations of the cosmos, they spoke. Lena Carter, you have broken reality. I folded my arms. Yeah? Good. The lead architect, a being known as Ordinus Prime, floated toward me. Homeowners associations are the foundation of all structured existence, he intoned. Lisa stepped beside me. Oh my God. Even the literal creators of the universe are obsessed with HOAs. Mark rolled his eyes. Figures. Ordinus continued. For eons, we have maintained the balance. Order, compliance, structure. Without these, the multiverse collapses into chaos. I smirked. Sounds great. Ordinus tensed. You do not understand, human. Without the HOAs, reality is. I cut him off. Reality is free. And you can't stand it, can you? The architects shimmered, their forms flickering. We did not wish to intervene, Ordinus said. But your defiance has left us no choice. You will submit to universal order. Lisa scoffed. Or what? Ordinus raised his hand. And suddenly, everything froze. Time. Space. Existence itself. Except for me, Lisa, Mark. And my backyard playset. I looked around. The sky was gone. The stars? Erased. Every dimension? Vanished. All that remained was Maplewood Estates, floating in a void of absolute nothingness. Ordinus's voice echoed. Surrender your playset. Accept structure. Return to order. Or be erased. Mark clenched his fists. They're trying to wipe out our entire neighborhood just to stop us? Lisa shook her head. These people are insane. I gritted my teeth. This was it. The final war. The last battle for existence. And I was not going to lose. I cracked my knuckles. All right, Ordinus. You want to fight? I grabbed my spatula of destiny. Let's do this. Fire Lisa launched HOA rulebooks at the architects, turning them into flaming meteors. Fire Mark wielded a lawn flamingo like a battle axe, cutting through reality itself. Fire I hacked into the fundamental code of the universe, rewriting the laws of physics with nothing but a barbecue manual. The architects screamed. You cannot destroy us. Ordinus roared. I smirked. Watch me. I turned to Lisa. What's the one thing HOAs hate the most? Lisa grinned. Messy neighborhoods. Mark's eyes widened. Chaos. I raised my hands and unleashed pure, unfiltered suburban anarchy. Fire overgrown lawns spread across the void. Fire trash cans were left at the curb for days. Fire mailbox colors no longer matched the houses. Fire an entire street became filled with unapproved garden gnomes. The architects screamed in agony. This is forbidden, Ordinus bellowed. I pointed at my playset. And this is freedom. I reached into the void. And with one final act of defiance, I planted a plastic pink flamingo in the heart of the universe. The architects collapsed. Their forms shattered. And then, reality rebooted. I woke up. The sky was back. The stars shined once more. And Maplewood Estates? Still standing. No architects. No HOAs. No cosmic overlords trying to control us. Lisa blinked. Did we just win? Mark stretched. Sure feels like it. I looked around. No one left to fight. No one trying to steal our homes. Just freedom. For the first time in eternity. I leaned back in my chair, lit the grill, and as the smell of barbecue filled the air, I knew. This time, it was really over. And nothing, not the government, not AI, not the multiversal HOA, not even the cosmic architects of the universe itself, would ever take our homes away again. Centuries passed. The universe remembered the story, the tale of a single suburban neighborhood that defied every force in existence. Scholars called it the Great Homeowners' Rebellion. But to the people of Maplewood Estates, it was just Tuesday. I sipped my coffee, watching my kids play. Lisa leaned over. So what's next? I smirked. Now? We relax. Mark grinned. Until the next HOA tries something. I laughed. Let them try. Because now, Maplewood Estates wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a legend. And it would stand forever. It had been 10 years since we destroyed the architects. For the first time in infinity, Maplewood Estates was truly at peace. No HOA. No government. No interdimensional bureaucrats trying to control our homes. Then, one night, the sky turned black. Not like nighttime. Not like a storm. It was darker than darkness itself. As if the fabric of reality had been deleted. And then, the voice came. It wasn't spoken. It wasn't heard. It was felt, inside my bones, inside my soul, inside the very atoms of my existence. You have gone too far. I clenched my fists. Yeah? And who the hell are you? The void shuddered. And from the nothingness, a formless, infinite presence began to manifest. I am the concept of order. I am the natural state of the universe. And you, the voice echoed through existence itself, are a problem that must be erased. I smirked. Try me. The moment I challenged the universe itself, everything began to unravel. Fire gravity stopped working. Fire time folded in on itself. Fire the laws of physics turned into spaghetti. Mark grabbed a floating chair. What the hell is happening? Lisa screamed. The universe is trying to delete us. I clenched my jaw. This wasn't an enemy we could punch. This wasn't a corrupt HOA board we could vote out. This was the fundamental structure of existence itself. And if we didn't stop it, we'd be erased from history. I cracked my knuckles. All right, I muttered. Time to do the impossible. And then, I punched reality. The moment my fist connected with empty space, something incredible happened. Fire, the rules of the universe shattered. Fire, causality broke like glass. Fire, the very fabric of existence trembled. The voice of the universe screamed in rage. You cannot do this. You're a simple mortal. I smirked. Yeah? Not anymore. I reached into the void. And I rewrote the laws of reality. Fire, I made gravity optional. Fire, I made bureaucracy illegal. Fire, I made it so that HOAs could never exist again, in any dimension, in any timeline, in any version of reality. And then, I slammed my fist into the core of the universe. And reset everything. When I woke up, I was back in Maplewood Estates. But something was different. There was no HOA. There were no government rules. There was no one left to fight. Because I had won. I had rewritten the entire universe into a place where no one could ever control us again. Lisa blinked. Did you just fix everything? Mark looked around. No more laws? No more regulators. I grinned. No more anyone telling us what to do. Lisa sighed, sipping her coffee. So what now? I stretched. Now? We live. Mark grinned. And grill? I laughed. Of course. And as I fired up the ultimate barbecue with no HOA, no government, no multiversal bureaucrats to stop me, I knew. This time, we had truly won. Thousands of years passed. Maplewood Estates became a legend. The one place in existence where freedom was absolute. Some said it was just a myth. Some searched for it across the stars. But only those who truly believed in the right to grill, the right to play, the right to live without interference, would ever find it. And if they did, they would see me. Still standing. Still flipping burgers. And still making sure that no force in existence. Not HOAs, not the government, not even the fundamental laws of the universe itself, would ever take our homes away again. It had been years since we destroyed every force that tried to control our homes. No HOAs. No bureaucrats. No AI overlords. No cosmic entities enforcing order. Maplewood Estates was free. Then, one morning, I heard a sound I never thought I'd hear again. A knock on my door. I opened it, and standing there, wearing a cheap blazer and a smug smile, was Karen Mitchell, the original HOA tyrant. The one who started it all. She smirked. Hello, Lena. I'm here to restore order. I burst out laughing. Karen, the entire concept of HOAs doesn't exist anymore. What exactly do you think you're doing? Karen's eye twitched. I will not let this neighborhood descend into chaos. I have petitioned for the restoration of HOA rule. And guess what? She pulled out a legal document. I have one final trick up my sleeve. I took the paper. Read it. And then I smirked. Karen, you really should have checked who signed this. Her smugness faltered. I flipped to the bottom of the document, where it was signed by the Supreme Court of Maplewood Estates, otherwise known as me, Lisa, and Mark. Lisa and Mark stepped out onto the porch, arms crossed. Karen looked between us, confused. I don't understand, she stammered. I grinned. Karen, you don't get it, do you? Lisa shook her head. We're the law now. Mark smirked. You lost, permanently. Karen's face went pale. You can't do this. You can't just make your own rules. I leaned in. Karen, you spent your whole life telling people what they could and couldn't do. Now, I pulled out an official-looking document. This is a community ruling. We are hereby sentencing you to permanent exile. Karen's jaw dropped. You can't exile me. I shrugged. You can either leave peacefully. Mark grinned. Or we let the neighborhood decide your punishment. Karen turned and saw dozens of neighbors standing behind her. Fire the parents she had tried to control. Fire the kids whose playsets she had tried to ban. Fire the people she had fined, harassed, and bullied for years. And they all had one thing in common. They wanted revenge. Karen swallowed hard and ran. Karen tried to find another HOA to join. She searched the entire country for a place where she could regain power. But guess what? Because of us, HOAs didn't exist anymore. She had nowhere left to go. Eventually, she moved into a tiny, run-down apartment with no one to boss around. And every day, she sat in her chair, staring at a neighborhood she could never control again. Her worst nightmare. A world where people lived how they wanted. A world where she had no power. The ultimate punishment. 1 year later, I stood in my backyard, watching my kids play. The playset was still standing. The barbecue was fired up. And the HOA? Gone forever. Lisa leaned over. Do you think she'll ever try to come back? I smirked. She can try. Mark laughed. But she won't win. Because now, Maplewood Estates wasn't just a neighborhood. It was a symbol of freedom. And no one, not the government, not the corporations, not even Karen Mitchell herself, would ever take that away again.